Ever catch yourself like in the middle of a workday and you just start daydreaming about, I don't know, learning to tango in Argentina?
Uh-huh.
Or maybe finally writing that novel you've been putting off, but like overlooking the Tuscan countryside.
Right. Who hasn't?
That, my friend, is the siren song of the 4-Hour Workweek.
Oh, yeah. That book's a classic.
This book by Tim Ferriss, it's kind of legendary at this point, right? Promising this life of freedom and flexibility, working less. Who wouldn't want that?
It's definitely appealing.
So in this deep dive, we're going to really unpack the core ideas from the 4-Hour Workweek
Okay.
and see how they hold up, you know?
Yeah, see if they stand the test of time.
Exactly. And more importantly, we'll explore which of these concepts might actually resonate with you listening right now.
I like that. Make it personal.
Because ultimately, it's about designing a more fulfilling life, right?
Absolutely. And it's important to remember, when this book first came out, it was pretty radical. Like, people weren't really talking about this stuff.
Oh, totally.
Ferriss was really challenging that whole grind-it-out mentality, right?
Yeah.
The idea that we just have to work, 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 and wait until retirement to actually, live life on our own terms.
Right. Like, put in your dues for 40 years and then maybe you get to enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
He was basically saying, what if we could design a lifestyle where work is integrated into our lives rather than the other way around?
Yes. Flipping the script on its head.
Exactly.
And one of the key concepts he introduces is this idea of the new rich, or NR for short. And it's not about, yachts and private jets. It's not just about amassing this huge fortune and then retiring to a golf course.
Right.
It's about designing a lifestyle where time and mobility are your most valuable assets.
Okay. I like that. Time and mobility.
Yeah.
So it's not even just about money. It's about freedom and flexibility.
Precisely. It's about having the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want.
Okay. So it's about choices.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the story Ferriss tells in the book about this guy who saves up like a ton of money, right?
Oh, yeah. I think I remember this.
For this dream trip to Paris, right?
Yeah.
And he's got everything planned meticulously. The fancy hotels, the gourmet meals, the works, right? He's been dreaming of this forever.
The bucket list trip.
Exactly.
So what happened?
Well, let me ask you, what do you think happened?
Let me guess. It didn't quite go as planned.
You got it. The guy gets to Paris and he's miserable.
No way. Why? What happened?
He's so stressed about spending all this money that he ends up, get this, cutting his trip short.
You kidding?
Nope. Goes back home early, stressed and disappointed.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And the point Ferriss makes is that it's not just about having the money for these experiences. It's about having the freedom and the mindset to actually enjoy them.
That is so true.
Yeah.
It's like you can have all the money in the world, but if you're too stressed or afraid to actually spend it and enjoy it, what's the point?
Right. It's like you're trapped by your own golden handcuffs.
Exactly. And that's where the deal framework comes in.
Right. Tell me more about that.
It's about creating that freedom and flexibility, but like in a systematic way.
So it's not just about wishing and hoping. It's about having a plan.
Right. It's about taking action.
I like
DEAL stands for definition, elimination, automation, and liberation.
Okay, so it's like a roadmap.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
roadmap for designing your ideal lifestyle and then figuring out step by step how to make it a reality.
I like how you said designing your ideal lifestyle because it implies we actually have some control over this thing.
We absolutely do.
Okay, so let's break it down then. Deal. Right. What's the first step?
D, definition.
Definition. Okay, define that for me.
Basically, it's about getting crystal clear about what you want your life to actually look like.
Okay, so not just these vague ideas like be happy or travel more.
Right. It's got to be more specific than that.
Like what would make you excited to get out of bed in the morning?
Exactly. Ferriss is really big on this idea of connecting with your why.
Your why. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, like what are those core values that drive you? What are the things that really light you up?
Because if you don't know what you're working towards, then what's the point, right?
Right.
And it's not enough to just say, I want to be happy or I want more free time.
Yep, got to go deeper.
You've got to define what those things actually mean to you.
Yes. Paint a picture.
What would a fulfilling day look like for you?
Oh, I like that.
What activities make you feel like truly alive
It's about getting really honest with yourself.
and specific?
Absolutely. The more specific you can be, the better.
It's kind of like, that old saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Yeah, that's so true.
But like most of us, we don't want just any destination, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the E in deal comes in elimination.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What are we eliminating exactly?
This isn't about like, becoming some minimalist robot, getting rid of all your stuff.
Right.
It's more about identifying what really moves the needle in your life
Okay, yeah.
versus what's just kind of like taking up space.
The time wasters, the energy vampires.
Exactly.
And this is where Ferriss brings in the Pareto principle, right? That old
Mhm.
80-20 rule.
Yep.
He suggests we apply it not just to, business and productivity, but to all areas of life, which is interesting.
I think that's key because we can get so caught up in like optimizing one area of our lives, but then we forget about the bigger picture.
Totally. So how would you suggest someone actually applies the 80-20 rule to their life?
Well, you got to start by asking yourself the tough questions like, what are the things that are truly essential for me to be happy and fulfilled?
Okay.
And what are the things that honestly have minimal impact if they're like, a bit delayed?
Or even gasp. Not done at all.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to say no to things that don't serve you. It's about getting intentional with your time and energy, making sure they're aligned with your values and your goals.
I like that. Intentional.
Yeah.
So we've defined our ideal lifestyle. We're getting ruthless about eliminating the non-essential. What's next?
Automation.
Automation. Now we're talking. This is where things start to feel futuristic, right? Like robots are going to take over all our tasks.
Not quite robots taking over yet,
See it.
but it is about leveraging technology to work smarter, not harder.
Okay, I like that. So give me an example. How can we automate our lives in a way that actually makes a difference?
One of Ferriss's big things is outsourcing, particularly using virtual assistants or VAs.
Okay, so for someone who's never used a VA before, that can sound kind of intimidating, right? Like, I'm going to hand over control of my to-do list to someone I've never even met.
I get it. It can feel weird at first.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. You order takeout online all the time, right? You trust them to get your order right and deliver it to your door.
True, I never thought about it like that.
It's the same principle. You're trusting someone else to handle something efficiently so you can focus on other things, the things that really matter.
That makes sense.
And you'd be surprised what you can outsource these days. Everything from like managing your inbox and scheduling appointments
Okay.
to social media, travel arrangements,
Wow.
even research and data entry.
It's like having a whole team of super efficient ninjas working behind the scenes to free up your time and mental energy.
Exactly.
But what about the cost? Isn't hiring a VA something only like, big time CEOs and entrepreneurs can afford?
That's a common misconception. You definitely don't have to be a millionaire to afford a VA. There are VAs at every price point, and with
Mm.
platforms like Upwork and Fiverr,
Yeah, I've heard of those.
it's easier than ever to find someone with the exact skills you need, often at a fraction of the cost of hiring, like a traditional employee.
Oh, wow. That's good to know. So it's about viewing it as an investment rather than an expense, right?
Exactly.
You're investing in your time, your sanity, and ultimately your freedom to pursue those things that, like we were saying before, those things that really light you up.
Exactly. And speaking of lighting you up, let's talk about the L in deal liberation.
Okay, let's do it. This is where it all comes together, right?
This is where we ditch the shackles of the 9 to 5. We embrace a life of freedom and flexibility. It's about designing a lifestyle where work is integrated into your life rather than the other way around.
Okay, so no more living for the weekend.
Exactly. It's about having the freedom to work from anywhere, to set your own hours, and to pursue your passions without being chained to a desk.
Sounds amazing, but let's be real. How realistic is this for the average person? I mean, not everyone can just pack their bags and become a digital nomad overnight, right?
True, it's not always easy, and it's definitely not an all-or-nothing proposition.
Okay, it's good to hear.
Even small steps toward liberation can make a huge difference in your quality of life.
So instead of viewing it as this like grand, unattainable ideal, it's more about identifying areas in your life where you can create even a little more autonomy and flexibility.
100%. Could you, negotiate a more flexible work arrangement with your current employer?
Possibly.
Maybe explore a side hustle that you're passionate about.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or even just carve out more time for those hobbies and activities that bring you joy?
It's about those little things, those little wins that can make a big difference.
Exactly. It's about taking back control over your time and your life, one step at a time.
I love that, taking back control. Okay, so we've talked about automation, but I'm curious, how does someone actually make money with this whole 4-hour work week thing?
Great question. And that's where the idea of muse businesses comes in.
Muse businesses. Okay, I've never heard that term before. Tell me more about that.
So Ferriss talks about these as a way to Generate passive income, essentially creating a system that works for you, even when you're not actively working on it.
Wait, hold on. You're saying I can make money while I sleep? That sounds too good to be true.
I know, right? But it's totally possible. Think about it like this.
Yeah.
You write an ebook once, but people can buy it over and over again.
Okay, so we're talking about things like online courses, ebooks, affiliate marketing, that kind of thing.
You got it. Let's say you're passionate about, I don't know, photography.
Okay.
You could create an online course teaching others your skills, or sell Lightroom presets you've developed.
Right.
Maybe you build a community around your amazing travel blog and generate income through affiliate links.
So these are all things that people are already doing, like, successfully.
Oh yeah, there are tons of examples of people creating these types of businesses and achieving incredible levels of freedom and income. It's not just some pie-in-the-sky concept. It's a proven model.
That's really inspiring. So it's about leveraging your passions, your skills, your knowledge
Exactly.
to create something that can potentially generate income even when you're not actively working on it?
Precisely. And the beauty of a Muse business is that it allows you to leverage your passions and expertise to create a source of income that's not directly tied to your time.
It's about building something that works for you, even when you're off, exploring that tango studio in Argentina.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that ties into another one of Ferriss's key concepts, mini retirements.
Okay, so tell me more about those. I love the sound of that already. Mini retirements.
Right. Instead of waiting until we're like 65 to finally retire and, supposedly enjoy life.
Yeah, like hoping we're still healthy enough to travel and do all the things we've always wanted to do.
Exactly. Ferriss suggests taking multiple mini retirements throughout our lives, like sprinkle them in.
Oh, I like that. So instead of it being this one big event at the end of your career, it becomes like a regular part of your lifestyle.
Exactly. And remember, a mini retirement doesn't have to be this extravagant months-long trip around the world.
Okay, good. Because that's not realistic for everyone.
Right. It could be like a month-long road trip, a few weeks spent learning new skill,
Yeah, yeah.
or even just a regular staycation where you like fully disconnect from work and reconnect with yourself and your passions.
So it's about intentionally creating space in your life for things that, like we were saying before, that energize and inspire you.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the key is to make it a regular part of your life,
Yeah.
not just something you do once in a blue moon.
Right, because then it's not this big stressful thing that you have to plan a year in advance.
Yeah, it's just part of your rhythm, part of your flow.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The deal framework, Muse businesses, mini retirements. It's a lot to digest.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone who's listening to all this and thinking, okay, this sounds amazing, but where do I even start?
It kind of reminds me of, when you're like standing at the edge of the diving board
Uh-huh.
and you're like excited about jumping in, right? But there's also that little voice in your head.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what if I belly flop? That little voice is the worst.
Right. And sometimes that voice, it keeps us stuck, even when, honestly, where we are isn't all that comfortable either.
It's so true. We stay in our comfort zones even when they're not that comfortable.
Exactly. So what advice would you give to someone who's feeling that pull, that pull between the allure of freedom,
Right.
but then also that fear of like, what if it doesn't work out?
First and foremost, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to get caught up in this whole, hustle culture mentality
Oh, yeah.
where you feel like you need to be making these like radical changes overnight.
Right.
But real change, lasting change, rarely happens that way. It's about those small steps, those little victories that add up over time.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Right. Exactly. Like start by identifying, one or two small manageable steps you can take today.
Okay. I like that. What would be an example of a small step someone could take?
Well, like we talked about earlier, could you automate one task that's been like sucking up all your time?
Oh, yeah.
Or could you maybe, I don't know, have a conversation with your boss about adjusting your work schedule, even just slightly?
Okay. Yeah.
Or could you simply carve out like even 30 minutes a day to work on that passion project that you've been putting off?
Right. Those small steps, they kind of build momentum, right?
Exactly. It's about proving to yourself that you can create more freedom and flexibility in your life. And those small wins, they build confidence and courage to eventually take on those bigger challenges.
They snowball. So instead of being overwhelmed by this massive goal, you're like, okay, what's one tiny thing I can do today to move me closer to where I want to be?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Not every idea in the 4-hour work week is going to work for everyone.
Right.
And that's okay.
It's about finding your own version of this.
Yes. The key is to find what works for you. Adapt it to your own life, your own circumstances, and just create your own unique path. That's what it's all about.
I like that. It's about creating a life that you're excited to wake up to every day.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the positive aspects of, like, Tim Ferriss's philosophy here. But I think it's important to acknowledge, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some people who, they might have some criticisms or some concerns. Like, some people might argue that his approach is a little too individualistic, right?
Right.
That it doesn't really address some of the bigger systemic issues that are out there, like income inequality
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
or lack of access to certain resources that not everybody has.
I mean, it's true. Not everyone starts from the same place.
Right, right.
And those systemic factors, they can definitely create real barriers for a lot of people.
Yeah, we have to acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
But I also think even within those limitations,
Yeah.
that there's still a lot of value in what Ferriss is saying, this idea of personal empowerment,
Yeah.
of taking ownership of your own life.
Yes. I think that's so important no matter what your circumstances are. It's about taking ownership of the things we can control, like our mindset,
Our choices.
our actions,
Exactly.
and focusing on creating positive change
Hmm.
within our own little spheres of influence,
Right.
Because even small changes, they can have a ripple effect.
It's like we can't necessarily change the whole system overnight, but we can at least start by changing our own little corner of it. And who knows, maybe those small changes will inspire others to do the same, and then gradually.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play, right?
Mhm.
In creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a fulfilling and meaningful life.
I love that. Well said. Well, I think that's a perfect note to wrap things up on. But before we go, I do want to leave our listeners with one final thought. If you could wave a magic wand and instantly design your ideal work-life balance, what would that look like?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, think about it.
I like that.
Hold on to that vision. Let it fuel your actions. And remember, even those small steps, those tiny little steps in the right direction, they can lead to some pretty extraordinary destinations.
So well said.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.